I found out my dad was rewriting his will at my own damn birthday dinner. No warning, no subtle hints. Just mid-chew between my sister's fake laugh and my mom's third glass of merlot, he clears his throat and announces that only his real grandchildren will inherit the lake house. Real grandchildren. I swear the room dropped 20 degrees. I laughed, out loud, because surely that was a joke, right? Surely he wasn't talking about my adopted son, the child I'd raised since he was 8 months old, the boy who calls me Dad, and who had just drawn him a goofy birthday card with glitter-glued letters and a shaky, "I love you, Grandpa," but no one laughed with me. Not my dad, not my mom, not even my sister, who suddenly found the soup spoon very interesting. So I asked, "What the hell does that mean?" And he said it, just like that. "It means the bloodline matters, Nate." That's me, by the way. Nate Harper, 36, proud single dad and occasional family disappointment. But apparently now I'm also the guy who's supposed to smile while his parents erase his kid like a typo on a page. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I didn't even cuss. Which deserves an award considering I was raised in this exact house, eating off this exact china, being told that family means everything. But now? Family apparently comes with a DNA clause, so I made a toast, raised my glass, looked every one of them dead in the eye and said, "Thanks for the clarity. This will make what I'm about to do a hell of a lot easier," and I meant it. You ever wonder what it feels like to shatter a family tradition in one move? You're about to find out. I didn't sleep that night, not even a nap. Just stared at the ceiling, running the whole birthday dinner through my head like a horror film on repeat, except the monster wore my father's sweater vest and spoke in calmly delivered generational betrayal. I think the part that stung the most wasn't even what he said, it was how damn casual he was about it. Like we were discussing lawn care, like disowning a child by adoption was just a tidbit of estate housekeeping. The next morning, I packed up the car, tossed in my son's favorite stuffed lizard, and drove straight to the lake house. Mine. Not theirs. Not ours. Mine. Bought it myself with my name on every legal document and mortgage slip. If they wanted to play the bloodline game, I'd play the paperwork card. I had plenty. Ben, my son, the kid they ignored, was in the back seat humming along to some cartoon theme song, completely unaware that his grandpa had just demoted him to outsider status. He's 9. He still believes in justice and bedtime snacks and people doing the right thing when it counts. I'd give anything to protect that kind of belief. But this world, this family, they've got other plans. I needed air. So I dropped Ben off at school and called in unavailable at work, which is the corporate way of saying emotionally unavailable and trying not to commit arson. Then I did the most Nate Harper thing possible. I bought a giant foam board, printed out a blown-up photo of Ben and me at the lake house and wrote in Sharpie across the bottom, "Air to everything that matters." That night, I brought it to Sunday dinner. Oh yeah, I went back. Mom answered the door in pearls, already 2 shades into judgmental silence. I walked in, said nothing, and set the photo right in the center of the dining room table like a holy relic. Dad blinked. My sister choked on her wine. It was beautiful. "I've updated my trust," I said flatly. "Everything I own, everything I ever will own, goes to Ben. Not just the house, not just the car, all of it." And I made sure to include language about excluding anyone who disrespects my family. Mom tried to interject, something about tradition or me overreacting, but I held up a hand. "You made your bloodline speech. Here's mine. Family isn't about blood, it's about showing up. And as of now, anyone who doesn't show up for Ben is erased from every future plan I've got. Financial, emotional, holiday seating arrangements, you're gone." Then I left. And tomorrow? I'm mailing out copies of the trust to everyone in the family, with a personal note attached. Let's see how real their family values are when money's off the table. The reactions hit faster than Amazon Prime on steroids. By Monday afternoon, my inbox looked like a digital battleground. Passive-aggressive subject lines, long-winded guilt bombs, and exactly one message from Aunt Louise titled, "Are you sure this isn't just hormones?" Which I didn't even open. I didn't need to. The preview said enough. "Nate, sweetheart, I know adoption is very emotional, but let's not punish people over one comment. One comment. Right. Like an arsonist defending themselves by saying it was just one match." By Tuesday, I started getting the calls. First came my sister Brooke. She opened with a dramatic sigh, so heavy, I could practically see her flipping her hair through the phone. "I just think you're blowing this way out of proportion," she said, like she hadn't been sitting there, mouth shut, while our parents verbally disinherited my son. "Dad's old school, you know that. It wasn't meant to be hurtful. He just believes in legacy. Ben is my legacy." I snapped. "You sat there and said nothing." She paused, long enough to admit guilt without words, then tried to pivot. "Look, if this is about the will, I'm sure they'll come around. They just need time." I laughed. "Time to grow a soul?" Click. That night, I posted the picture again, this time on Facebook. Same foam board, same caption. Added a paragraph. "For those wondering if this is petty, yes, that's the point. I'm done watching people smile at my son while erasing him behind closed doors. Blood doesn't make you loyal. Showing up does. Ben showed up the moment I held him. I'll never stop showing up for him. And if that offends you, feel free to unsubscribe from our lives. The post exploded. Likes, comments, shares. Half the people were strangers. But they got it. They got it. One woman DM'd me to say her adopted son cried reading it. Another dad offered to send me whiskey and legal templates. I hadn't expected any of it, but it felt grounding. Like maybe the world outside my family still had room for people who chose love over genetics. Wednesday, Dad finally called. I stared at the screen so long it went dark. Then I answered. "I didn't raise you to be vindictive," he said without preamble. His voice was clipped, like this was just a mild misunderstanding between gentlemen and not a full-on ideological war over the worth of a child. "You didn't raise me at all," I said calm. "I raised myself, and now I'm raising a kid who deserves better than this." He sighed, heavy, tired, the sound of a man who knows he's losing a fight but still thinks he deserves to win just for showing up late. "It's not personal, Nate. It's just different. So is having a spine, but I grew one." There was silence, the kind that stretches across generations. Then he said, "If you keep this up, you're cutting off your entire family." And I replied, "No, I'm just finally recognizing who counts." And that's when I realized something. He wasn't calling to apologize. He was calling to warn me. So now I'm wondering, what exactly is he planning next? Thursday morning, I got a calendar invite titled Harper Family Discussion. Location, Dad's house. Time, Saturday at noon. Sent by my mother. No message, no emojis, no RSVP request. Just a digital summons, like I'd been served a slice of Thanksgiving with a side of psychological warfare. I stared at it like it might explode. Then I hit decline. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom, of course. "You're not coming?" she asked, like I just declined to attend my own kidney transplant. "Nope," I said, pouring cereal for Ben, who was trying to convince me that marshmallows counted as a fruit group. "Not interested in another ambush disguised as brunch." "It's not an ambush, Nathan," she said, dragging out my full name like a guillotine. "It's a civil discussion." "Great. Then feel free to civilly discuss why you're rewriting my son out of existence." She went quiet, then soft. Manipulative. "We just don't want to upset tradition. Your grandfather built this family legacy." "Cool," I interrupted. "He also once said women shouldn't vote and that microwaves give you cancer. Want to hang on to that too?" The silence that followed was enough to chill the milk in Ben's cereal. Then she said it. The sentence that flipped a switch so hard I nearly bit through the phone. "You have to stop acting like Ben is the same as the others." I swear I saw red. "He's better," I said. "He's mine. And if you can't say that out loud without choking on your own prejudice, you don't get to sit at my table. Metaphorically or literally." I hung up. Later that day, I started making some calls of my own. First to my attorney, to update the nuclear option clause in my trust, essentially stating that if any of my assets somehow ended up in the hands of certain family members, they'd be redirected to charity. The Humane Society would love that boat they always joke about inheriting. Then I made one more call, to a guy named Chris. Chris is a videographer. He films weddings, real estate walkthroughs, and more importantly, those family legacy videos people record when they're dying or getting sentimental. I asked him to come to the lake house that weekend. I wanted to film a message, to Ben. I didn't cry while writing it, not once. But when I stood in front of that camera, holding the locket he made me in second grade from a keychain and glue, my voice cracked. I told him how proud I was, how fiercely I loved him, how his last name might match mine, but his heart was always bigger. I told him that if he ever felt small in the eyes of others, to remember he was the center of mine. And then I said something I hadn't even planned. "I hope someday you watch this and wonder what the big deal was. I hope the world has changed so much that you can't imagine a time when people thought DNA decided your worth. But if it hasn't, if it's still this hard, then I hope you burn down their expectations with the same fire I raised you with." After we wrapped, Chris looked at me and said, "You want this edited?" I said, "Nope, leave in the cracks. I want him to see every damn one." By Friday morning, the family group chat was lit up with speculation. "Did you really record a legacy video? Are you okay? Can we just talk this out like adults?" And my favorite from my cousin, "Dude, Aunt Carol is crying." Good, because I haven't even started the fireworks yet. And Saturday? I'm showing up anyway. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I just pulled up to my parents' house Saturday at 11:59 a.m., parked like a funeral director with a grudge, and walked up the steps like I'd been summoned by God, not guilt. They weren't expecting me. That was the point. The door opened before I knocked. Brooke stood there, eyes wide, phone in hand, probably mid-text about my dramatic Facebook post. Her mouth opened to say something. I'm guessing, "Wow, you actually came." But I walked past her like air. Let them scramble. I had a plan, and a flash drive in my pocket. Inside, the whole clan was assembled like a jury with matching polos. Dad sat at the head of the dining table, hands clasped like he was moderating a board meeting instead of a family intervention. Mom was beside him, already teetering between self-righteousness and martyrdom. A few cousins, Uncle Jim. Even Aunt Carol, Mascara smudged, like she'd pre-cried out of commitment to the drama. You made it, Dad said, like I was late to church. I was curious, I replied, pulling out a chair but not sitting. Wanted to see what a discussion looks like when the topic is excluding a 9-year-old from his own bloodline. Brooke rolled her eyes. Can we not turn this into a scene? I smiled. Oh, honey, this is the scene. Then I pulled out the flash drive, walked over to the TV, and plugged it in. Chris had sent me a perfectly formatted version of the video. Simple, clear, brutal. Just me talking to Ben, telling him how proud I was, how much I loved him, how I'd chosen him every day since the moment I held him, and how I'd keep choosing him even if it meant walking away from people who claimed to love me but couldn't accept him. I didn't watch them as it played. I watched the reflection in the TV screen, watched Dad's jaw tighten, watched Aunt Carol clutch her chest like I'd physically slapped her with a Hallmark card dipped in napalm. I watched Brooke pretend to check her nails halfway through, then blink too fast to pass it off as casual. When it ended, I turned around and said nothing. Let it breathe. Let the discomfort marinate. Finally, Dad spoke. That was dramatic. And you erasing my son wasn't? I asked, voice low. You threw out a child because he didn't come with your DNA starter pack. You think that's not dramatic? You think that's love? Mom stood. We've loved Ben. But this is about inheritance, Nate. About preserving the family's legacy? I snapped. Let me tell you what Ben's legacy will be. He's going to inherit me. Not your money, not your house. Me, my time, my values, my stubborn refusal to accept conditional love. Silence. So I stood, grabbed my keys, and turned toward the door, but not before one final parting shot. Oh, and by the way, that lake house you think you're entitled to? I grinned. I just renamed it. Paperwork's already filed. New title and everything. I walked out before they could ask, because as of today, it's called Ben's Lineage. And next weekend, we're throwing a barbecue. Invitation only. By Monday morning, I was famous in a very specific, very petty corner of our family tree. Apparently, word had spread faster than wildfire in a dry season. Uncle Jim told Aunt Carol, who told her Pilates group, who told the church bulletin lady, who somehow worked Ben's Lineage into this week's prayer request under the header, Wayward. Decisions made in pride. Glorious. I didn't care. Ben was thrilled. Not because he understood the drama. He just thought it was so awesome that a house had his name in it. He asked if we could put a neon sign above the door. I told him we'd start with a mailbox decal and work our way up. That's when I got the text from Brooke. Brooke, FYI, Dad's updating the will again. Just letting you know, it was the most sibling thing ever. Passive-aggressive, but also laced with just enough alarm to trigger my curiosity. So I called her, against better judgment. And honestly, I wish I hadn't. She picked up mid-sigh. He's making it official. Only biological grandchildren get inheritance. He had the lawyer out this morning. Mom made scones. Scones? I asked. What is this, a settler's divorce court? She didn't laugh. He's hurt, Nate. You blindsided him. No, I said. He just didn't expect a target to shoot back. Silence. Then, quieter. He told me he's cutting you out entirely. And there it was. My throat went dry. Not because I cared about the money. I'd built everything I had without their help, but because of what it meant, what it symbolized, the final, spiteful rewriting of our story. He was cutting me out the same way he was cutting out Ben, pretending we were never part of the blueprint to begin with, but I didn't flinch. Good, I said. Then I won't have to decline anything in the future. Brooke sighed again. You're really not going to fix this? No, I said, because this isn't broken. It's revealed. And just when I thought the circus had peaked, Ben got a letter, a real stamped envelope addressed to him in sloppy cursive. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was my mom's. Inside was a single-page note and a folded-up picture. The note said, Dear Benjamin, I hope you understand that families are complicated. You are a sweet boy, but this has been very hard on your grandfather. Maybe one day we can start fresh. Love, Nana. The picture? It was of Ben, taken at Christmas 2 years ago, sitting on Grandpa's lap, wearing reindeer antlers and holding a toy train they gave him. He looked so happy. He had no idea they were already planning to erase him. That night, I sat on the edge of his bed, watched him sleep, and promised myself 2 things. 1, he would never feel like a second-class anything. 2, and the next move I made would scorch the earth behind me. The birthday barbecue? It was about to get very public. And someone's getting uninvited in the loudest way possible. I did something reckless. Not illegal, not immoral. Just socially catastrophic in the most surgical, Nate Harper fashion possible. I created a Facebook event, titled it Ben's Lineage, a celebration of real family, set the date for Saturday, wrote a description that walked the line between emotional depth and nuclear-grade sarcasm. Come join us at Ben's newly renamed lake house for food, drinks, and the kind of love that doesn't come with DNA disclaimers. We'll have barbecue, music, and zero tolerance for casual erasure of adopted children. All are welcome, as long as they recognize that family is chosen, not inherited. Bring a dish or bring an open mind, but don't bring entitlement. We're fresh out of that. Then I tagged every cousin, co-worker, and distant family member who'd ever posted #FamilyIsEverything on Instagram. The post detonated. Within an hour, I had 30 RSVPs, a dozen DMs, and 3 angry text messages, one of which came from my mother, who simply wrote, "This is cruel, Nathan." Take it down. I replied with a screenshot of her letter to Ben and said, "You started it." By Wednesday, the guest list had turned into a parade of unlikely allies. My cousin Danny, who came out at 19 and got disinvited from Christmas for causing a scene, messaged, "I'll bring ribs and revenge." My college roommate, who watched me break down the night I signed Ben's adoption papers alone in my apartment, offered to DJ. Even Brooke's ex-husband, yes, the one Dad hated, said he'd swing by with a smoker and a cooler full of beer. Ben was oblivious to all of it, which was how I wanted it. He just knew we were having a party with grown-ups who actually like us. But the best moment came Friday night, when I was out front, hanging lights, and a car pulled up. Out stepped Uncle Jim, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and holding 2 Costco trays of macaroni salad like a peace offering from another timeline. He walked up, scratched his neck, and said, "Your dad's lost the damn plot. Always knew he was stiff, but this? Cutting a kid out because of blood?" I blinked. "You're okay with this?" He shrugged. "You're a good man, Nate. Ben's lucky. Anyone who can't see that probably shouldn't be around decent people anyway." He handed me the trays, patted my shoulder, and said, "Mind if I help set up?" I think I blacked out for a second. The next morning, I stood on the porch as people trickled in. Some brought food, some brought hugs. One woman brought a handwritten note saying her brother was adopted and thanked me for standing up publicly. I didn't cry, but something in my chest cracked open and stayed that way all day. We had pulled pork, laughter, music, lawn games, and 2 separate dance circles. Someone set off fireworks. Someone's toddler tried to eat a citronella candle. It was chaotic, loud, glorious. And then someone whispered, "They're here." I turned. Dad and Mom were standing by the edge of the driveway, arms folded, staring at a celebration they were no longer invited to. Dad looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Mom's lips were pressed so tight they could have filed a trademark. I didn't wave. I didn't walk over. I turned back toward the grill, raised my drink, and called out, "To Ben, heir to everything good and nothing toxic." The crowd cheered. Dad turned and left. Mom hesitated, but then she followed him, and I swear the air got lighter, like we just expelled something rotten. The fallout hit like clockwork Sunday morning because my family might be emotionally constipated, but they never miss a chance to weaponize brunch guilt. The group chat, which had been weirdly quiet during the barbecue, suddenly came alive like a haunted Ouija board. "Mom, what you did yesterday was humiliating." Aunt Carol, "I can't believe you aired our family business in front of strangers." Cousin Lindsay, "You could have just talked to them privately, Nate. Not everything needs to be a performance." Uncle Jim, "The pulled pork was fire, though. I gave that last one a like. The rest? Left them on read." Then came the voicemail from Dad. I knew it would happen, and still, when I saw the notification, my stomach twisted like I'd swallowed a Rubik's Cube. I listened once, then again, just to make sure I heard it right. His voice was flat, controlled, like a man who was used to winning and couldn't quite figure out why no one was handing him a trophy this time. "I hope you're proud of yourself. You've divided this family for what? A political statement? You used that boy as a prop in your tantrum, and you've lost more than you think. Just remember, when the dust settles, you'll be the one alone." Ah, yes. The classic "you'll die sad and regretful" threat. Vintage Dad. Collectible. I didn't respond. Not right away. Instead, I sat with it. Let the ache of it burn clean through. Because yeah, it hurt. Not because it was true, but because once upon a time I would have bent myself backwards just to stop him from saying it. But that version of me, the one who twisted into pretzels to be accepted by a man who ranked people by chromosomes, he died the moment Ben called me Dad, with finger paint on his cheeks and applesauce in his hair. That evening, I sat Ben down, told him the truth, but in our language. "You know how some people think being part of a family means you have to be born into it?" I asked. He nodded, sipping hot cocoa and watching a cartoon about aliens who live in a junkyard. "Like the people who say adoption's not real." "Exactly. Some people think love has rules. Like only certain kinds count." He squinted. "That's dumb. Love's not a board game." I smiled. "You're right, but some people don't get that. And when they don't, we have to protect ourselves. Which means we won't be seeing Grandpa and Grandma for a while." He blinked. "Because they don't think I'm part of the family?" My throat clenched, but I nodded. "Yeah, but that's their mistake. Not yours." He was quiet for a second, then said, "Can Uncle Jim come over more?" I laughed. "Yeah, buddy. Uncle Jim's in." That night, I posted one final update. "Yesterday was a party. Today's a boundary. If you loved us at the lake house, thank you. If you didn't, this door swings one way now. Choose wisely." I knew what I had to do next. It was time to change my will, but not just mine. Ben's getting his too. And we're about to make some very public declarations of who counts and who doesn't. On Monday, I walked into my attorney's office with a coffee in one hand and vengeance in my veins. "I want to revise my will," I said, dropping a folder on the desk like it contained nuclear codes. Inside, a full breakdown of every asset I owned, house, savings, retirement accounts, and that ridiculous vintage vinyl collection I'd spent years curating. It was all going to Ben. Every dollar, every Dusty Bowie record, every chipped plate from the lake house kitchen. And, I added, I want an exclusion clause. My lawyer blinked. "You want to disinherit someone?" "No," I said, grinning. "I want to disinherit everyone else." The clause was very specific. Anyone contesting Ben's inheritance would be legally forfeiting their right to even a penny. Anyone who had ever questioned his legitimacy as my son would be permanently barred from benefiting in any way. Anyone who ever tried to contact him later in life under the banner of family reconciliation to sniff around for money would be met with paperwork, not grace. We notarized it all that afternoon. I left feeling like I'd set something in stone, not out of spite, but out of protection, a fortress around the boy I chose. Then I did something more theatrical. I printed it out. Just the main page, big block letters, last will and testament of Nathaniel Harper, Benjamin Harper, sole beneficiary clause. 7. Bloodline is not a factor. Loyalty is. I framed it and mailed copies to my parents, my sister, and Aunt Carol. No note, no commentary, just cold, clean, legal truth, delivered via certified mail. Brooke called, of course. Are you trying to humiliate them? No, I said. They did that to themselves. I'm just filing it properly. Then I blocked her. That Friday, Ben and I went to the lake house. We grilled hot dogs, watched a dumb action movie on the projector, and camped out on the deck under a sky full of stars. At one point, he turned to me and asked, "Do I still have grandparents?" I exhaled slowly, eyes on the sky. "You've got the ones who act like it. Uncle Jim, Danny, maybe even new ones we meet along the way." He nodded. "Okay, I'm fine with that," and I believed him. The next morning, we installed the new plaque at the gate. "Welcome to Ben's lineage. Family by choice only." A week later, the message finally arrived. From my dad. Handwritten, sloppy, no return address, but I knew the penmanship. It said, "Nathan, we read the will. If you think this is the end, you're wrong. You'll regret what you've done, Dad." I folded it once, tossed it in the fire pit, and lit a match. Because regret? That belongs to them now.